I can detect strong US embarrassment over this because they failed to stop Israel striking into the sovereign territory of one of their strong allies in the Middle East, very close to the diplomatic quarter in Doha and not so very far away from where the US has a major military base, Al Udeid, in Qatar.
Let's now go to Nicholas Hopton, who is a former UK ambassador to Qatar. Nicholas, good evening to you.
Good evening.
America's position in this is interesting. Let's hear from White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. She spoke about an hour or so ago about Donald Trump's wish for the war between Israel and Hamas to end.
President Trump immediately directed Special Envoy Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, which he did. The president views Qatar as a strong ally and friend of the United States and feels very badly about the location of this attack. President Trump wants all of the hostages in Gaza and the bodies of the dead released, and this war to end now.
OK, well, that was the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Tell me what you make of this situation. Qatar should never have been struck. Israel will feel, well, that it was fair enough, really, considering where they are with trying to get hostages released.
Well, this is clearly a major development in the conflict that's been taking place between Israel and Palestine since 7th of October 23, almost 2 years now. It's been a long and bloody conflict and seemingly intractable, with both sides failing to negotiate, apparently in good faith. And this is the latest twist in that very sorry tale, with the Israeli military taking out the leadership of Hamas. Apparently 5 members of Hamas have been killed in Doha today. And whilst they were actually discussing the terms of a ceasefire agreement that had been put forward by the United States only in the last few days. Now, the Hamas leadership were clearly heading up a terrorist organization which committed appalling atrocities almost 2 years ago. And some might say that justifies them being assassinated in this way. Others will point out that this is apparently a very clear violation of international law and norms, and is certainly not the way to get a peaceful solution to the conflict, and also very complicating for the United States and embarrassing, as we've heard from the White House. I can detect strong US embarrassment over this because they failed to stop Israel striking into the sovereign territory of one of their strong allies in the Middle East, very close to the diplomatic quarter in Doha and not so very far away from where the US has a major military base, Al Udeid, in Qatar.
We'll get back to your video shortly, but first, many of you right now will be watching the show on your phone, tablet or laptop, completely unaware that this very second someone could be accessing your device and stealing your data. Using the internet without private internet access, VPN, is like letting Facebook post your diary. Your friends and family can read all your dirty secrets. A virtual private network, or VPN for short, is an app that hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. It shields your digital life from those eyes who are looking to exploit your private information. Whenever you connect to the internet on a public Wi-Fi network at airports, coffee shops, friends' houses, or even at your own home, your data is at risk of being stolen. Your device is transmitting a great amount of information out into the open, which can be viewed by various different entities before reaching the intended website, such as your ISP, government censors, advertising companies, and more. Hackers on the same network can easily steal your personal data. With PIA, you're protected. But there's more. With PIA, you can access all your usual streaming services, including Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+, even if you're outside your own region. All you need to do is open the app, select a server from 91 countries, and just like that, you're digitally there. And it's not just for fun. With recent legislation, more and more content is being restricted. PIA allows you to access the content and news that you want to watch. And with one PIA subscription, you can protect an unlimited number of devices, so that's the whole family covered. Follow the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen now to receive a massive 86% discount, making it just £1.57 per month. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and to top it off, you'll receive 4 additional months for free. Head to piavpn.com now and take control of your digital life.
Yeah, so it is important for the US to have good relations with Qatar. Will there now be trust issues between Qatar and Donald Trump?
Well, it's striking that after initial silence in the first hour or so, the White House press secretary at least has come out and effectively tried to explain that while the US was alerted before the strikes, and Steve Witkoff then did, apparently, according to the White House press secretary, let the Qataris know, and that they are, and the president is not happy. He feels, quote, badly, unquote, about this strike on one of his allies, which the US could presumably have actually intercepted in some way, given the way they intercepted Iranian missiles that were fired at Qatar just a couple of months ago in June. Yes, I mean the US will be working overtime at this point to try and rebuild the lack of trust with their very important Qatari allies.
Where does this leave Donald Trump then? You said that he's been embarrassed by the Israeli Prime Minister.
Well, I think his embarrassment will stem from the fact that he put ceasefire proposals on the table just this last few days, which Israel seemed to be willing to accept, came publicly out in support of them. Hamas were discussing them, apparently, when they were struck in their headquarters in Doha. And it looks to the world as if the Israeli Prime Minister pays absolutely no attention to what the US national interest is, what the global interest is in seeing stability and peace in the Middle East, and doesn't care if he embarrasses President Trump, who many would say is the only person who has any influence over Prime Minister Netanyahu's conduct of the war.
We have heard from Israel today that they had agreed to this latest ceasefire deal at the weekend, that they had signed off on it, and that it was up to Hamas to agree to it. We've also had the allegation tonight that Hamas was about to agree to it, and that Israel couldn't and wouldn't let that happen, and that is why they decided to strike as they did. Just dig into both those factors for me. What do you think?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that Israel has done that. You'll recall back in the summer when Israel struck Iran as negotiations were taking place between the two sides. And again, on that occasion, giving minimal, if any, notice to the White House of their intentions before striking. And then I think it was very interesting to hear your reporting about a former US ambassador who presumably will be well plugged into the senior circles in Doha, reporting that he thought he had heard that the Hamas leadership who were attacked today were close to agreeing a positive response to the US's ceasefire proposals.
Does there need to be international condemnation that Israel have chosen to strike a sovereign nation?
It's already happening across the region. Countries like Saudi Arabia, who Israel apparently wants to normalize relations with, have been unequivocal in condemning this act. Obviously Qatar, but many others in the Middle East. And I think European leaders, President Macron, Sir Keir Starmer, have come out against this. And actually we've heard a kind of condemnation from the White House as well, from the US.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like Prime Minister Netanyahu's got many supporters, if any, for his action today. And if the US president is saying that this does not help Israeli or US interests, does not advance the case for peace, and that is a message being given to Israel by world leaders and including all now members of the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, it may come to pass in the negotiations that are about to, or the discussions that are about to take place in New York during the UN General Assembly, when all world leaders gather, it may come to pass that when Prime Minister Netanyahu looks back at what he did today, he may regret it as not actually having served his interests.
Yeah. Isaac Herzog, the Israeli president, will meet with Keir Starmer tomorrow, our Prime Minister. What should Keir Starmer say?
I think he should reiterate privately, and I'm sure he will, the very strong condemnation he gave publicly today of the Israeli action, which seems to violate international law, and not to mention set back perhaps the progress towards peace in the Middle East. I think he should also be prepared to deliver some very clear messages about where the UK sees this conflict going and what needs to happen next. The UK still has some influence in the region and is listened to often by countries there. Whether the present Israeli government is prepared to listen to the UK or in fact anyone else is a moot point. But I hope and I would imagine that Sir Keir Starmer will give some very clear and tough messages to his visitor.
Look, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. Nicholas Hopton, who is former UK ambassador to Qatar.